with others. Done.
Okay, so hello everyone. So I'm going to discuss for one more last part is about one China policy, one China policy. Yeah. And as we can see that, I think you may know already about the population that my member had presented about the number of the population in China. It's almost like 1.5 billion, right? And so we can see that why this happened. So as we can see from that, the implementation of the reform of the one-child policy. So as you can see after the revolution of the POC, the creation of the POC, the number of the population booms up. Like they goes really high from that. And during that time, as we can see that, we can simply ask like one-child policy is, we can say the purpose is an official program that initiated in the late 1970s and early 80s by the central government of China, and purpose of which was to limit great majority of the family. It means that we need to go back to the history of that. In that case, we can see Mao Zedong also mentioned that after the establishment of the POC, we need the number of, the reinforcement, the number of people at that time. That's why he did not any care about the birth control or anything at all. And after that, because of the number of the population grow really high, and then he started to make a propaganda. In 1971, he said 1 is good, 2 is okay, and 3 is too many. And then after that, he tried to move on to another propaganda on that. Like in late 1970, he said 1 couple, 2 children, or 1 couple, better 1 child at that time. But like I said, the problem increased when the number of the population increased so high. And after the death of Mao Zedong and under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, he tried to remove and he tried to make one China policy on that. And like you can see, in the early 1890s, he said that 1 couple, only 1 child. And when we think about one China, one child policy, so we need to understand about the impacts. So we can see the positive impacts and the negative impacts of this situation. So let's talk about the positive impact of one child policy at that time. We will say that population control, it is one of the major things for China policy at that time. We can see that with making one child policy and law, that every Chinese family has to abide by those around 400 million births were prevented. So it seems like that the positive impact from that one child policy will control the population at that time. And he also mentioned about another positive impact, which is about the job opportunity. Imagine when you have a lot of population in the country. So I think that the number of job opportunity will be high, right? So you need to be challenging in order to get the job opportunity at that time. And so that time when they use that one child policy, it will make a great impact on the job opportunity as well. So that time maybe the youth, they have a chance to work and have a chance to find a good job at that time as well. And at that time we also mentioned about a better life. So when we say about the better life, for example, one parent, they have only raised 1 child. So the burdens of taking care of children, like going to school or whatever, it is not really high compared to a lot of children. I think, if I'm not wrong, before the one child policy in Thailand, I think the average of number, according to the statistic, the one woman, they can born like 5.8 children at that time. So it's really a big number of population. And let's talk about the key concern about one child policy at that time. So when we know that one child policy, one parent also only allowed to have 1 child at that time. So the problem is about too many boys and unequal ratio in China. So as we can see from Chinese culture, so when the people, they try to have a baby, for Chinese culture, they want boy rather than the girl, because they assume that boy will inherit all the things and will support their family when they are getting old or something. So there is one problem that the number of the boy rather than the female. And finally, it will make the problem when, for example, like you can see the picture, marry me. Like the number of the girls is limited at that time, and the boy there were a lot of men at that time, so they will try to find the relationship. It will be hard at that time as well. And one more thing is about abortion, like this one. When most families were restricted to have one child, having a girl become highly undesirable, resulting in a rise in abortion of female. Even though China law, they're allowed to have, they're allowed the parents to have their abortion, but it's kind of really a cruel thing, right? Because if we ask the parent, we want to born a female, and we don't want the female, so we decided to do the abortion. So it's one of the key concerns of the China one child policy at that time. And another key concern for the children, especially for the children, the only child. As we can see, I can see that the Chinese culture, like I told you, the children they have a lot of responsibility in order to support the parent. For example, like the picture you can see, the parent they have to take care of their grandparents, and after that, you have the baby, and the baby, after they grow up, they have the responsibility more to support. So that is one of the negative impact of the one-child policy at that time. And after that, we can see that there will be a reformation. They do some reform in order from one-child policy to another new policy at that time. So as we can see, as the gender ratio in China is 117.6 boys for every 100 girls born. And we can say that some researchers estimate that there will be approximately 30 million more young men than women in China by 2020. So that is one of the negative impact from that. That is the reason why, in the wake of an aging population and speaking about force, the policy was first relaxed. It means they do not really demolish the one-child policy immediately, but they try to relax the problem. And finally, they will add about the one China policy in late 2015, early 2016. So after the CGP, they also stated one couple could have 2 children at that time. So it will be a great opportunity, but if you look at the new policy for the 2-child policy, I will try to give you both one-child policy with negative and positive impact, and with the 2-child policy also the pros and cons of that as well. So as we can see from the new 2-child policy, we can see the growth of youth population. So we can say that if we talk about the pyramid game, we can say nowadays the youth is grading low. So if we have like one couple that have 2 children, it will make the growth of the population go to a pyramid shape like that. So it's really good for China in terms of economy or politics as well. And we can say the good thing about that is about the increase the birth rate. I said already is about the pyramid gate and gender imbalance. So as we can see that one couple, they may have 1 children before, right? Especially in men. And after that, if they have another new policy, 2 children policy, so they may have 1 boy or 1 girl. So it will grow the gender imbalance at least somehow, yeah, it will grow there. But let's talk about the cons or the negative impacts of 2-child policy at that time. One of the major problems is about the double expense. So as a parent, you have 1 children, so you have one kid to raise, to support when they are in child. But now you have 2 children, so you need to double expense regarding to education, to taking care of everything at that time as well. And another thing is about the social demand. Social demand here, it refers to the public service sector, for example, like education sector. So when they have a lot of children, they need to improve or they need to increase the number of the social sectors like service sector, healthcare sector, or education sector as well. And last but not least is about the job challenges. So when we talk about the job challenges, like I said already, when the number of youth, they will go maybe together, they will have a lot of competition regarding to finding a job as well. And as for this, I will summarize the picture by 3 categories. As we can see before 1973, we can see the parent they can have like 3 or 4 child or 5 child, maybe 6. It doesn't matter at that time. But during the one-child policy at that time in 1918 onward, they have only 1 child. And let's move to 2016. Now they are allowed to have 2 child. And that's all of our references. And thank you.